Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Movie Markets Podcast. It is Monday, June 29th, 2026. You might have heard in the background there, right as I started the presentation, the opening bell went off. We've got a market this morning that is up. It's the first few seconds of trading, so obviously you got to wait a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, to see if the actual move to the upside can match what futures were doing. Here's a quick peek right here at where futures were just prior to the opening bell. Dow up 300, Nasdaq up 328, S&P up 62. The Dow being the least of those in terms of how far up it is. But I don't know if these will be refreshed or not yet. Here's the actual open. And as you can see, the the Dow Jones, I'm trying to figure out for you how much of a delay this is. Says the Dow up 145, the S&P up 40, and the Nasdaq up 248. All a little bit softer than what the opening bell suggested. But let me give you up to the moment, like up to the minute. S&P up 41, so pretty close to what this is showing. The Nasdaq up 243, 241 again, close to what this is showing here, and the Dow up 137, so off of this a little bit. It's good that we're starting to the upside like this, but this is a day where I think we've got to be really careful. And to coin to use a phrase that gets used a lot, we got to be careful we don't get out over our skis today and get overly optimistic. And it's not that I don't want to see the markets going up. It's not that I'm not happy with what this initial move is, but you got to be careful in the midst of all this. Oil is up, even though it's just a fraction. This is a pretty small move to the upside for oil, and it puts the price per barrel of oil barely above 70. And that price right there is still a lower price than where we were like in the day or 2 or 3 days right before the start of hostilities in Iran. The Iran situation is tricky because over the weekend we did a bunch more bombing. Iran reneged on their ceasefire and fired a drone into a cargo ship. I'm trying to remember what country and I'm forgetting, but they fired a drone into a cargo ship. The United States responded and retaliated. And then kind of at the 11th hour, a little bit before the markets opened, both sides agreed to halt hostilities and go back to the negotiating table and go back to talking with each other. But I think this is kind of what we're in for on a regular basis. Me, yeah, on kind of a regular basis, I think you're going to get more and more of this. I think you're going to get more and more of a situation where it feels like 2 or 3 steps back, or 2 or 3 steps forward, and then 1 or 2 steps backwards. And I think it's going to be hard to avoid that for another 2 or 3 weeks. Every time these two sides, the U.S. and Iran, get to the negotiating table and start to have what feels like meaningful conversations, you get, Iran basically goes back on what they said they were going to do. And the reason, I don't think this is a shock to anybody. This is not breaking news from Jeffrey and Safe Option Strategies and the Moving Market Podcast. But what you've got is right here you've got the leadership of the mullahs, the religious leaders, and they've been knocked down 2 or 3 levels of leadership. So this top tier of leadership has been wiped out, and here's your leaders now, these people that were 3, 4 levels down. Over here, you've got the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, kind of their elite military forces, and they've maybe had a few people in the very top tier of their leadership has been taken down, and so their leadership is somewhere in here with only maybe one level of leadership taken down, and these two groups right here are not seeing eye to eye. I think there is a constant battle between these two levels of leadership as to who is actually in charge, who is actually calling the shots. So you get these mullahs who have seen most of their higher up people taken out, literally taken out, and they're saying, look, out of self-preservation, we want to make some kind of a deal. We don't want to lose our lavish lifestyle, our income, our ability to control what goes on in our country. And so we're willing to talk to the United States, even though probably 99% of what we're saying is an outright lie. And again, we're doing it just out of self-preservation. And then you've got the IRGC who is saying, hold on a minute, don't give up our nuclear ambitions, don't give up our ambitions, don't give up our ability to control the straits. They've only seen one level of their leadership knocked down, and these people over here in the IRGC, they feel like they're in control and they're calling the shots, and they have a lot of power to exercise. And I think there is something of a civil war going on between these two sides. And so the United States makes some positive steps with this group of people, and then these morons over here lob another bomb or attack another ship, and we have to go in and blow it up. And I really believe this sincerely. I want things to end over there. I would like to see this entire thing de-escalate and get resolved without ever having to put troops, boots on the ground in Iran. But I got to be honest with you, until these people, this being the IRGC, until they have been knocked down to here, I think they're gonna keep doing what they're doing. You're gonna make a couple steps of progress with the people over here, and then these guys are gonna still try and lob some more bombs. And until we go in and knock these guys so hard on their butts, this is the bully on the playground right now. Until we go in and knock them so hard on their back end, on their keister, as to signal to them we cannot win right here. And again, out of self-preservation, we've got to be willing to negotiate and make a deal. Until that happens, this pattern is going to go on. You're going to feel like you've got some results, and then it's all going to disappear and fade away because you're not getting these two groups to see eye to eye. So I'm glad we're talking about negotiations and talks and sitting down and working things out again. I don't feel like it's going to last without more hostilities. And I think what we saw over this weekend and last week is going to be a repeated pattern, probably for a good portion of the rest of the summer. That's what I think is going to happen. Now, I talk a lot of geopolitics here, a lot of this situation with Iran, because it has so much to do with the price of oil, and the price of oil does more often than not affect what's going on in the markets. Now, I think the markets are up in part because there's a buy opportunity from last week's dip, and in part because this jump in the price of oil is not a big jump. It's not massively affecting the markets, but be really careful with how you approach the market today, tomorrow, the rest of this week, because you could have several days this week that start like this and then into the downside very, very easily. That could happen. That don't be shocked by that at all. You've had 2 weeks of sell off for the Nasdaq. And in fact, I think when you go back to here, or excuse me, the S&P, I think when you go back to here, you only had one of the last 4 or 5 weeks that had a little upward trend to it. And overall, the markets have been down. There have been a few bright spots. There have been a few things that have been going good. But you have to be so cautious. As far as our open trades go, we've got an Nvidia trade that's giving us grief. We've got a longer term trade. We adjusted it by rolling short calls down and then using the credit from those short calls to buy a bear put spread. And today, that bear put spread is not looking so good because Nvidia is up about 0.75%, but that could be the reverse tomorrow. So you got to watch that one and not be overly anxious to make another adjustment to it. And then AMD, we've got a trade that we've rolled out a few times, and now we've got it out to the end of this week with AMD. Or actually, I'm sorry, we've got it out to the end of next week. We need AMD to stay at or above $500 a share, and right now up at 525. that feels kind of comfortable, and it's looking good today. But a 26, 26, 28, $30 sell off on AMD is nothing. AMD could go very, very stagnant and stay in this range, but still give us a scare from one day to the next on this price target of 500. And we just want it to stay above 500 for as long as possible. I think it will stay up around 500 or above. In fact, I think you go right halfway between this 550 that it hit a week and a half ago and this $500 a share right here. And I think the likelihood is that for 2, 3, 4 more weeks until they report again, I think they will stay in this range. In fact, I think it's very likely that they stay in this range. But there's going to be days that look really good, and there's going to be days that don't look so good. And my recommendation on AMD is wherever you've got your cost basis adjusted to, take the victory and take a break even or a win the second you have it. If like me, you've got your cost basis down around that $4.15 a share, which is right about where I'm at, is 415, I believe. I'll double check and fix the spreadsheet and make sure it's up to date. But once I've reached that level or above, without hesitation, I'm going to get out. I don't care if the stock 3 days before expiration, if we're trading at $550 a share, right up here at the high point of where we've been. I don't care if that's where we're trading 3 days before expiration. I'm not going to assume that they couldn't or wouldn't shed every penny of that inside of 1 or 2 days of trading, because we've seen them do that multiple times. And so I'm gonna see anything as a break even or better as a victory, and take it and get out. We may adjust the Nvidia trade again this week. We may not. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to get too excited about one day where it's up a little bit. It's up close to 1%, but that's about it right now. I'm not ready to adjust our longer term SPY trade today. I am hopeful to open 3, 4, 5 new trades today. A few trades on the triple play side, a new trade on the main SOS weekly spread trade side. I think there will be some good opportunities. I will be cautious, and I'm going to do like I've done the last 2 weeks where we haven't opened new trades. I'm going to find limit orders that I feel make the trade a good deal from a risk reward ratio, and I'm going to stay disciplined to those limit orders. I would rather not open a new trade than open a new trade where I had to pay a little too much to get into the trade. I'm looking at possible trades on SpaceX. I'm looking at possible trades on Boeing. I'm looking at Caterpillar. I'm looking at a couple of tech stocks that don't report until the very end of the month, something where you could see a consolidation to the upside or the downside prior to the expiration. And so I expect today and tomorrow to be busy as far as potential new trades. I have been frustrated, and I expressed this on Discord at the end of last week. I have been frustrated with setting a limit order on some trades and not seeing enough liquidity to see those trades fill. But don't give in on a limit order. If we've got a $2.50 spread, I said this last week on Friday, I'm going to repeat it today almost verbatim. If you've got a 250 spread on a trade and we put out a trade that's maybe a 205 limit per share order, you're not doing the wrong thing. If you maybe look at 207, 208, you could still feel good about a fill just 2 or 3 pennies above where a limit order is. But don't give in and go to 215 or 216 or 217. You end up with a risk to reward ratio that just doesn't make it as good a trade. It doesn't make it a worthwhile trade. Again, I would rather have a trade not fill than get filled at a price that's just simply too high. We may have another week or two before we get fully into earnings season where we don't get as many trades fill as we would like to have fill. You got to be okay with that. I know that's really frustrating for people that are brand new in the program. They've just spent some money to get in and they want to get into some new trades. I get it. I understand, but you got to use discipline and you got to be cautious and be willing to see not having a trade fill as better than a bad fill price. So I'm going to wrap up right there. I don't have anything more I have to go over. We'll probably be online a little bit longer tomorrow. Watch Discord, watch your emails. Again, I'm hopeful throughout the day. I'm not going to be in a big rush, but I'm hopeful throughout the day to get into three, four, maybe as many as five new open trades, and then manage the couple of open trades we have. All right. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. I'm looking forward to a good week this week and next week. And we'll see you back here live tomorrow. Thanks. Bye bye.